Yo, this hot, this the spot, there it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and life to stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, a comedy podcast to help you find your inspiration. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. Thanks so much for being here. I have a fun episode for you today. It's a pop talk episode, and I am talking all that pop with girlfriend of the show, Justina, best friend of the show, Rob, and brother of the show, Trey. We're talking the Snyder Cut, MCU Disney Plus shows, and an action comedy movie bracket. And we had a real fun chat talking about all these things. We start with the Snyder Cut, and why talk about it? Why don't we just get right to it? Here's my chat with the Of the Show gang. Well, thanks for joining me, Of the Show veterans. We have girlfriend of the show, best friend of the show, and brother of the show here.
Hello.
Not that anyone sees me waving.
I know,
or
I was waving too.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of podcasts nowadays are going both audio and visual, so I think people will see this, right? Right, Jason?
I guess technically someone could potentially see this.
Yeah, like I think like Edward Snowden and NSA and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, of course.
We live stream on 8chan, right?
Yes. And just all the dark web.
Yeah.
Where we post it. And that's why I'm not more popular. Now,
Yeah.
of course, this has been deemed the action comedy bracket episode, but that's the last topic we're going to talk about. Before that, we're going to talk about the MCU shows. I guess it's the Marvel television universe. And we're going to start by talking all that pop about the Snyder Cut. It's popping off.
No, when every time we say action bracket, can we do the explosion sound like, or can you edit in the explosion sounds? Like,
sure.
Or like maybe Star Wars lasers, like, or I don't know if you know this.
That doesn't feel like action comedy.
I'm a part-time Foley artist, so can I do a little bit of that's pretty good gun cocking.
That is pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah. My gunshot's not too good, but so I have a small child, so no, sorry.
Well, yeah, we can certainly edit in your gun. Let's get a clean gun reloading.
You for the shit.
We'll see how that works.
Yeah, we need what's his name from the Police Academy movies.
Yeah, was it Winslow?
Michael Winslow?
Yeah. Michael Winslow.
Yeah. Let's talk Justice League, the Snyder Cut. It's finally out. We all saw it. Did you like it? Now, let's actually start with Justina, because Justina, when we talked about the Justice League Snyder Cut in the previous Pop Talk episode, you got a big laugh in that you were saying, I don't really think I want to see it, but you saw it.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember saying I didn't want to. I believe you.
You said the laugh was because you said it's going to be long, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was so well done because
Probably
they
not.
had the chapters, the parts, so you could pause or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like so much fun, and I thought it was great. And all the Amazonian stuff, always a big fan of that. The only part that I didn't like was the end, because the movie ended and then there were all these things that seemed tacked on to the end to me. But
Only one thing was
overall,
tacked
I really
on,
liked
though.
it.
Only
Which
one
right?
thing was tacked on. Only the Joker scene was actually tacked on. Everything else was...
No. The Martian Manhunter thing was also...
That was originally supposed to be John Stewart Green Lantern. The studio wouldn't let him do it. They shot John Stewart Green Lantern as that scene. Studio didn't let him do it, so they had to redo it.
That was clearly a shot.
Because Ben
then,
Affleck
because
looks
Ben Affleck looks
skinnier.
like,
not tacked on is what I mean. Because they shot the original version, and that's 75%.
I see what you mean. You were drawing a
same.
distinction between the fact that the Joker scene was written for the Snyder cut, not originally was it going to be a part of it. Okay.
Yeah, because they were gonna do that scene as Green Lantern coming in.
Okay,
75% of that dialogue was the same.
You have a lot to say. What did you think about the movie?
Sorry. I actually am like Justina. I really liked it. I didn't really see anything that I didn't like. I mean, I told Jason privately that stuff that I didn't think quite worked is really a Batman versus Superman problem and how it was set up there. But if you look at this movie in isolation, to me, there wasn't any fat that needed to be trimmed. Like if Snyder had been allowed to do this as the theatrical cut, obviously he wouldn't have been able to do 4 hours. So they would have forced him to cut stuff. Could I find stuff that he could cut to get down to 3 hours or whatever? Sure. But I didn't actually see stuff that didn't help the story or didn't help the characters, stuff that I thought needed to come out. And I liked it as is. Like I was actually surprised at how much I liked it.
Yeah. I really liked the scene with the Flash meeting his girlfriend. What's her name?
Iris West.
Iris West.
I do think that was a dope scene, and I understand how they were using it to bolster that character in the story. But to your point, Trey, I actually think a lot of those scenes didn't help this movie so much as I don't want to say they bogged the story down. What bogged the story down was that they had to introduce all these characters in this movie. But I don't really think you do need that scene, in all honesty, but it's also one of the best scenes in the movie. Let's move on to Rob's opinion, though. What did you think?
Thursday, March 18th, 8:55 p.m. Central Standard Time. Rob McNabb to Jason Farr. I hate you for making me watch this. Jason, ha ha ha. We can wait to do the podcast and not cover this. Well, I started it. I might still tap out. Next text. Whoa, blood and fuck used. So that's how the movie started for me. And I
Now, I was told that you were watching on your iPad, though.
No, yeah, I did. Because, and that made, well, I switched over to my TV the next day. So let me just say, I did not watch this in one spurt. And it was a slog. But it was much better, much better than the abomination that they released the first time.
Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
It made way more sense. It was, they dragged it out, but it was cool. I really liked it. I thought that there's just stuff that just made more sense, like from when the arrow was fired and things like that. Like that just made way more sense in this version. And then they actually teaming up to, it was a different ending than basically the Whedon ending. And I liked it. It was more of a teamwork type of thing. But yeah, so I mean, in that sense, it was better. I do think you could trim the fat. And it's funny because I'm like, oh my God, this is 4 hours. It took me like 2 or 3 days to do it. And then the other night I sat down and watched Endgame again from start to finish. So, I mean, it's like, and I think it's the difference between I've seen, but by that point I had seen like 22 films that built up to it or something. And so I felt, like I knew all the characters and obviously now when I'm watching Endgame, it's a lot of nostalgia from watching the movie and from the characters and knowing what happens, but
Avengers! Assemble.
it was still, just watching it from a sense of I've just watched Justice League and I'm now watching Endgame. It's just not even close. It's like reading Cliff Notes and reading the actual book to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just not close. No.
Yeah,
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Like, but
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, but it was better. It was much, much better. And whoever was the studio people that made them do the stuff they did should be fired and never allowed to do anything in Hollywood again.
As far as viewership is concerned, this movie, the Snyder Cut, is behind Wonder Woman 84 and was behind Judas and the Black Messiah and Godzilla versus Kong. So it still did well, I guess. Hard to tell how significant these numbers are when the sample audience size isn't always that large. And one of the places that I read this information, they had like 15,000 homes they were doing. It's like, oh, okay, they're just over 300 million people in America, but that seems like a good sample size. But is it enough to restore the Snyderverse like everybody wants? And would you even be interested in a Snyderverse restoration? We'll start with you, Rob.
I mean, obviously, the little kid in me wants to see this. Like, I want to see these characters. I want, obviously, like, it's been a dream of mine since a child to see in the big screen Batman and Superman together. Like, that's always, I mean, no matter what, because if you were to ask 12-year-old me, what would be more important to you, to see the Avengers or see Batman versus Superman? I'd be like, who are in the Avengers? Like, I wouldn't have known who the Avengers were.
Same.
Versus Batman and Superman are the pinnacle. And so that's what's been so frustrating to me, is it's like, I should be so giddy and excited to finally see this, and it just doesn't feel that way. So I guess I'm optimistic that it could get better, and it could reach the heights of which you'd hope for. But on the other hand, it's like, what kind of formula does it have to pass through, and what kind of studio stuff does it have to pass through? And like, so many filters, will it just end up being kind of a B- film, and that's my fear, is like, I would like to see them go further as a fan of the characters, but I just don't know if it's there.
Yeah.
What about you, Trey?
So I think, because I've read a lot about what Snyder's actual plans were, and going back to even before Batman versus Superman, it made me much more interested in his vision. Because what Batman versus Superman, I think part of why that was much more flawed than his Justice League is that it sounds like there was so much more studio interference in that one. And they forced the Batman versus Superman as the second movie, whereas Snyder would have had a second Man of Steel movie, and maybe at the end of that tease that Bruce gets the kryptonite or something like that. And so it's just much more breadth, and then knowing where he's going. Like, that's why he tacked the Joker scene into the Snyder Cut, because that was teasing what would have been in his next Justice League movie. Because there was going to be a whole movie of just the nightmare, where Superman succumbs to anti-life, because
and it was
Lois
going to
gets
be a
killed.
nightmare. Established that it was just a nightmare.
It was going to be real.
It was real.
They call it nightmare because of Dark
confusing.
Nightmare.
To put it in MCU terms, that time period that he was planning would have taken place in the 5 years of the blip in the MCU.
Yeah.
And then Justice League fixes everything, and that's why in Batman versus Superman, which you didn't see, Justina, I know, that's why there's that scene of the Flash telling Bruce something.
It would have gotten paid off.
In the movie.
And that's what I kept waiting for. I was like, are they going to pay that off in the Snyder Cut? Because that was one of those scenes. I was like, oh, okay. Like,
we saw snippets of it again. So when Cyborg was communing with the mother boxes, we saw a version where the Earth blew up or got terraformed because of the mother boxes. But Flash undid that when he traveled through time and fixed it.
And that's
hearing all of this stuff about what the Snyderverse would have been, Justina, would you be interested in seeing it at all?
At this point in time?
Yeah, like if they end up making these...
I don't see how they could. I feel like it's too damaged at this point as a franchise.
Well, that's what I think too.
And I think I actually think that's why the numbers weren't better for the Snyder Cut, because it's the combination of people have a bad taste in their mouth over what's already happened.
Yeah.
Plus knowing it's 4 hours. And I don't know how
else has moved away from it so much. I mean, if they restored the Snyderverse, even if it would be financially viable, even if the studio would be down with doing it, how do you then fold in where Wonder Woman 84 and where Aquaman went away from the universe?
Right.
Yeah.
Shazam moved away from the Snyderverse. Like, how do you really how do you really restore it since those movies actually exist?
See, I don't know that I agree that it moved away from it, because
Zack Snyder agrees with me. they moved away from smaller details, but still.
What I took him to mean is more, like the smaller details, or they've already abandoned it. Like they know that's not their future plan. But I don't think anything that's happened in these movies contradict or prevent what would have been depicted in Snyder's movies. Because you would have had, similar to Marvel, you would have had these other solo movies and these other side movies in between.
Part of the thing is with the behind the scenes drama, like Chris Terrio, who wrote Justice League and some other of the movies, but he was brought in on Justice League, he thinks, to appease Ben Affleck because they worked on Argo together. And he thought that the 2017 theatrical cut was an act of vandalism. And then you have Ray Fisher saying everything that he's saying. I don't know how the Snyderverse could be restored. And it would be nice if Ray Fisher didn't get the shaft here, but it just looks like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because the execs are protecting each other rather than trying to do the right thing.
And that's what sucks. Is like, it's not going to.
But
I mean, what a surprise! Like an African American man gets the shaft. I don't know. I mean,
who wasn't a big name? Like if he came out of theater. So if he was a big name, like if he
had been Will Smith, or Michael B. Jordan, probably
they would have been listening. Yeah. But they didn't want to listen to this young.
I don't know if you listen to what Whedon said, allegedly at least, to Gal Gadot. I know that she wasn't that big of a name. She wasn't necessarily Michael B. Jordan level in terms of number of credits.
That wasn't post Wonder Woman though, was it?
But it was post Wonder Woman.
Hello, she was Giselle in Fast and the Furious.
I get it. But...
So ponder breaks a little bit.
Yeah, but Whedon allegedly threatened Gal Gadot's career based on not doing stuff he wanted her to do. And she had to take that to the execs. Now, she hasn't been as open about that stuff as Ray Fisher, so I don't know quite what it is that happened. But that's the stuff I've read in a few articles. So if he's willing to do that to her, I don't think he'd be holding back on a Michael B. Jordan.
That's a good point.
I think if they had better Feige-type leadership at Warner Brothers, I think Snyder could have done something really special. I like his plans. I like his ideas.
All right, changing gears to another comic book world, the MCU TV shows, or as I suggested, maybe the MTU, WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or as Justina calls it, Hawk and the Snowman, are both big shows. Everyone has been talking about them, especially WandaVision. How have you felt about the MCU extensions into television? Let's start with you, Justina, because you watch those with me.
Yes, I really like them. I thought the first couple episodes of WandaVision were like, what is happening?
Yep.
I thought it was a great payoff. I really enjoyed it. The MCU continues to impress.
I don't even know how they did it because I was not into Wanda.
Yeah, and I was rewatching Avengers and Civil War. I don't like her either as much. But I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I like it. It's well done. And the show did a great job of rehabbing that character.
Not to interrupt it, but like I just remember we saw Endgame, which was possibly one of my favorite viewings of a film ever, was because I got to go see it with Jason and our other best friends in New York City. And it was really emotional for me.
Awesome.
We all cried. But maybe not Jim, because he has no heart. But I remember like Wanda, and she's like, "You took everything from me," and he's like, "I don't know who you are."
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
You will.
And I'm like, oh God, I cringed in the theater because she just made me cringe. I rewatched it And I'm like, man, you get him why? And like, I'm like, she almost had him. She was almost the Scarlet Witch. Like if he hadn't have like done like Hailfire, she would have killed it.
She could have taken out Thanos on her own if he hadn't initiated a blitz. I mean, nobody else came close.
Yes.
So, I mean, you know what I mean? So that's what the MTU has done.
They've done such a phenomenal job with all these characters, and we've been rewatching a lot of the MCU movies, and we're like, every single character, regardless of how small they are, in the grand scheme of things, you have your marquee characters and your less so. They all have such a well thought out and deep story arc, all of them. Every single character, and it's great.
I agree with everything y'all said about the TV shows. As a side character, because she's not Cap or Iron Man or Thor, there's limited time to develop her and Vision. So that's the purpose of these Disney Plus shows. And that came out of, I guess it was Bob Iger said to Feige, hey, we're going to start Disney Plus so we could use some Marvel content. So he's like, oh, okay, let's see what you do with that.
That's basically, these shows are done off commission. When they planned the first 3 phases, they weren't talking about it. You know, that's a recent thing then. And that's amazing that they have been able to do it such justice, no pun intended, with these shows, because it wasn't something that they were planning since Iron Man or Captain America, the first Avenger. I mean, it was new stuff.
The thing I thought about Wanda was, and I told my wife about this, is like, well, if I was an average person, and I'm obviously above average, as you can tell, listeners. No, as in just, not someone who like us that like obsesses about this thing. If I had Disney Plus and started watching WandaVision, I would have been like, what the hell is this? Like, this isn't superheroes. This is a 50s sitcom. What is going on? I don't understand.
My wife and her flying saucers.
My husband and his indestructible head.
Aren't we a fine pair?
And that's why I got really into it really quick. I was like, oh man, people are going to be so mad because like they don't know what's going on. And then like the payoff that, that she used to watch the shows and things like that. That was so smart. And it was just like, oh yeah, obviously if you had an unimaginable amount of power and you were just hurting so much, you would probably go back to what comforts you, and what comforted her was those sitcoms. And it just made so much sense. Yep. And that she created this world based off of what she loved. And it just was like smart.
Right.
And they nailed the I mean, you got like the 50 sitcom. They really differentiated between I Love Lucy. Was that what she liked? And then Dick Van Dyke, or was the 60s Dick Van Dyke?
Van Dyke was,
or Mary.
Dick Van Dyke was 50s because they even had
Who's the 60s? Who are the 60s based off of?
I feel like it was a few things though.
The 70s was great, basically the
Brady Bunch.
Yeah, and then the 80s was
Family Ties and
a little bit of Full House.
A little bit of Full House. Yeah.
And then you get Malcolm in the Middle, and then you get Modern Family, The Office. More Modern Family than The Office.
And a little Happy Endings, which I didn't watch, but apparently
I love Happy
Easter egg videos.
Yeah.
Pointed out some of the Happy Ending stuff.
Yeah.
I'm blank. Yeah, I think I Love Lucy. I'm blanking on who else were the 50s, but Bewitched was, I think, straddling 50s and 60s. Even though Bewitched was just a 60s
I always think that was
show.
more of a 60s show. So
Bewitched was a 60s show, but I think in terms of how they approached the 50s scene, it had some Bewitched in it.
Okay.
They would lean more heavily into Bewitched. I mean, it was strictly. I mean, they even had their opening sequence in the 60s. Looking at
Now, obviously, WandaVision that's finished its run, at least its first season. If it gets a second, I don't know. But
the season finale was called the series finale.
Okay, that's true.
Bullshit.
But I don't know. I mean, it was such a hit. It's such a hit. Maybe they would bring it back. But nevertheless, that has completed. We're still in this season of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That show was I really like those characters.
Can you move your seat up? No.
Couldn't have done that earlier.
I hate you.
So I was looking forward to the show, And while it doesn't quite have the wow factor that WandaVision does, it's still been so damn good.
Yeah.
And maybe there's the difference between me and you is my favorite MCU movie is Captain America Winter Soldier by far. Like just by far is my favorite. I love it. But I really love the show, and they've really gone there. Is they really are? I mean, I hate talking to two black men about the race, but like, I just love the way they're addressing race in this. I love it. I love that the underlying theme is America isn't ready for a black Captain America.
Yeah.
And that's Sam's fear. And like, he's right. And so, I mean, ultimately, and that's what sucks about America, but I mean, and it's great. And like, it's just I really love it because obviously, they're really keeping with the tone, I think, of Winter Soldier, but I like Anthony Mackie a lot.
Hello, girl, kick your ass.
I love Anthony Mackie.
And he's just he's somebody that he's just dynamic when he's on screen. And I've thought that since Notorious. He played Biggie in that. That was the first time.
I thought about since he played Tupac in that. I mean,
Man, fuck your camera. No, I'm fucking with you. Come on.
No, I thought about that since 8 Mile.
Your lyrics are shit. Like when I cop a squat. Who told you can fuck with the mighty Papa Doc?
Because he's the bad rapper in 8 Mile. He's Papa.
I didn't remember
he's
him
Papa
that,
Doc.
but I may have seen. I don't remember which one came out first, but I loved him as Tupac, and that was when I really noticed him. And then I've seen him on talk shows like Conan and Fallon. I was like, I love this dude.
One of my. I love Daniel Bruhl. I mean, obviously, I've loved him since Inglourious Bastards. He's so good in that movie. And also another movie that a lot of people hate is Burnt, but I love that movie so much with Bradley Cooper, where he's the chef, and Daniel Bruhl is his the owner of the restaurant / maitre d'.
It's a fucking birthday cake, okay? So make a cake.
And I just really like him, and him as Zemo. Like, I didn't think they could make Zemo more interesting. And like the part where he's, there's an hour version of him just dancing in the club.
I saw that. Video of him. I saw that. Yeah.
And he's great. I mean, when he's giving the kids the Turkish, he's giving the kids the Turkish delights and just
this all goes back to just how great the MCU is about establishing characters and drawing them out, making them interesting. Because Justina was saying, because we've been rewatching these movies, and she was saying that the bad guys, the villains, have good motivations, like clear
every single time
motivations that you get. And he had a clear motivation in Winter Soldier.
I told my wife, don't worry. They're fighting in the city. It took me 2 days until I found their bodies. And my father, still holding my wife and son in his arms. And the Avengers, they went home. I'm sorry about your father. He seemed a good man, with a dutiful son.
He's not just this mustache twirling villain.
He's not wrong necessarily.
Right, exactly.
Same for the Flag Smashers.
They started a war as soon as they kicked us out of our new homes and onto the street. People all around the world need me, millions of them.
They're kind of not wrong.
I mean, God, they are so smart.
Their way of doing it is
their way of doing this.
Titan was like most planets. Too many mouths, not enough to go around. And when we faced extinction, I offered a solution.
Genocide.
But random, dispassionate, fair to rich and poor alike.
Same with Killmonger. Who I think is the best villain of all. Yeah. I mean, is Killmonger wrong? No.
Y'all sitting up here comfortable. It's about 2 billion people all over the world that looks like us. Their lives are a lot harder. Wakanda has the tools to liberate them all. But didn't life start right here on this continent? So ain't all people your people?
I mean, he's right.
And I agree with all of what you're saying. And Rob, you talked about feeling bad talking to 2 black men about this. So you're basically Zemo when he was talking about Trouble Man.
That's actually with that scene. I was like, oh shit, I'm Zemo. Like, no, you don't understand. It really can, it's like, oh God, that's me.
But it is a masterpiece, James. Complete, comprehensive. It captures the African American experience.
He's out of line, but he's right.
but it's great. But it's great though. I mean, he actually understood. To me, he didn't come across as patronizing, and he wasn't wrong.
No.
And I like the layers that they're giving to Zemo. Like I kind of actually like Zemo now.
I do,
even though what he's doing is
I
wrong.
like that they made Sharon Carter like, holy shit, is she badass? Like
He is, yeah.
We gotta talk about my boy, Wyatt Russell. God, I love Wyatt Russell. I love that dude so hard, and it comes from one. I love the movie Everybody Wants Some, and he is so good in that movie. He literally is like the perfect Hollywood child because he's got that Kurt Russell swagger with a little bit of that Goldie Hawn sense
Charm.
To him. You know what I mean? It's just like
he's the overboard of people.
He is the overboard of people, but he wants to be so good, and he wants to, like he has good intentions.
Everybody in the world expects me to be something, and I don't want to fail them.
But good intentions don't mean good results. And I think, and we saw that this week.
The way I read him, and it makes it that much more realistic, is he was always the jock. He was always the captain.
Yes.
He was always the star. He goes to West Point, which they have a certain perspective, a certain box they want to put everybody in as soldiers.
Yes.
So they develop that kind of guy, that kind of leader. And that's what he developed into in the field. So he's a great soldier. And in many respects, he is a great leader. But he's missing that heart that Steve Rogers had. He's missing that I stand up for the little guy. And I was the little guy. I know how that was. Sort of thing.
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
And you think about Captain America, the first Avenger, and the scene where Erskine, who's so important to him, when he's like, a weak man understands strength.
Why me?
The serum amplifies everything that is inside. So good becomes great. Bad becomes worse. This is why you were chosen. Because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power. But a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion.
And the problem with John Walker is he's always been strong. He's always been the best. So when you amplify it, you're not amplifying a heart that understands what it's like to be lesser.
Bullshit. We know she came through here. Now where'd she go? Do you know who I am?
Right.
And that's why he can't be Captain America versus Falcon, who has grown up obviously in America but has served his country proudly and has been, treated horribly by our country. When you think about the way he acted, how they reacted to what he did in Civil War and in Winter Soldier, like he has not been rewarded by this country. And then obviously too, financially, he's not been rewarded as an Avenger. Because when he returns from the blip, no one's helping him out and giving him a loan. If he were to get the super soldier serum, I have no doubt that he would make a great Captain America, but I don't think he's going to need it to be Captain America. So,
right.
Yeah.
Now what you all have said about WandaVision, I think Sam in a way makes out the best by having this show. Because he was a side character in everything else he's been in. Whereas Bucky was secondary as well.
Yeah.
But he was secondary in a higher position in the first Cap movie.
Oh, yeah, one of the Captain America movies has his name in it.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, he's the guy that they're going after in the second Cap movie. So Bucky's got a lot of development, and Civil War is still thrust by Bucky. So now Sam's getting the development.
And and you think about and I think this will perfectly segue into our next discussion. But if you think about really great action comedies, there is usually, when you have a buddy cop comedy, there is someone who maybe isn't as the primary focus. When you think about something like Lethal Weapon, where Riggs is definitely the character that has the most development versus Murtaugh, who's more of an established person. And I think even though Bucky's got his problems, he is more of an established person versus Falcon in a way. And I think that he's a little more of the he's got more going on. And I think, and whereas Bucky, obviously mentally, he's probably a little more like Riggs. I think we have a little more stability with him as a viewer because we understand, like, it's not like Bucky was a bad guy. He just got hosed after he fell off that train. So, whereas, Sam's, it's just the country and what he's going through as a hero.
The only mistake I think they made with Falcon and Winter Soldier was showing in the trailer Sam practicing with the shield.
Yeah,
it's obviously going to be like a final episode thing.
I know.
Because we haven't seen it yet.
I completely agree. That was so stupid.
I completely agree too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of hate that they did that. I agree.
I hate they did that too.
All right. Well, Rob, you mentioned Lethal Weapon. It's not an action comedy, so it's not on the bracket. But
I know, but it kind of is.
We do have this new bracket, and it was your idea to do an action comedy.
Yes, it was, because I have been rewatching a lot of action comedies, especially Beverly Hills Cop, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, there's another category because we've had much success, as we've seen with the data, with comedy horror. So I thought
horror comedy. One of our biggest episodes.
So we decided, hey, let's go with action. People like action movies. I don't know if you know that.
Well, I have some controversial picks in here, I'm sure, for somebody. There's some movies that were not included that were highly regarded. If you look at how they were reviewed, like Stakeout or Every Which Way Is But Loose. Also, sorry, Spider-Man. There's a cultural relevance that I thought we were too out. The Stakeout's out of the zeitgeist. It's very unpopular. It's not popular. Every Which Way But Loose. Who's talked about that in years? And Spider-Man just didn't feel as on the nose in comedy as Deadpool. So Deadpool is the superhero movie. Even a lot of those movies can be seen as action comedies. Deadpool felt like a real comedy.
It felt funnier than it. I mean, it's got action in it, but it led with comedy more than.
It does seem like it's more like its approach is more comedy. So
yeah,
that's how. That's if you're mad about some stuff that's not on there. That's part of the reason why. Here's how I picked the movies. I did some Google and IMDb searches, and movies that fell into the genre were ones I noted, and if they also got placed in best action comedy lists, I considered that too. Also considered the box office success, though that's kind of the least interesting part of it to me, but it does speak to how impactful it was when it was released. Ratings across IMDb, Metacritic, and Rotten Tomatoes were taken into account. Popularity, I got that data from IMDb. And I just considered how much of a cultural phenomenon a movie was, which doesn't have the same kind of metric that the other things I'm mentioning did, but it's still something I was able to observe and see. Again, if there's a movie you think should have been on the list and it isn't, sorry, it didn't make the cut for what I was using to put these together. 32 movies in this new action comedy bracket, and it was fun to put it together. But I gotta say, this might have been the toughest for me out of all the brackets when it comes to matchups. What were your tough matchups? And then we'll later talk about Final Four and our winners. Trey, why don't you start?
All right. So the first of the most difficult, I even put them under the heading Sophie's Choice, was 21 Jump Street versus Rush Hour.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not hard.
Because, well, to me, the Rush Hour had a big drop off after the first one, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think the first one still holds up, despite who the director was. That one to me still holds up. Enough that I actually had it edge out 21 Jump Street. But I love 21 Jump Street. I love both of them. And it was like, if you asked me tomorrow, maybe it's 21 Jump Street that wins. But today, just putting it together today, it was Rush Hour. And I think it's because of the Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. They were great in the roles.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
And I think it was a nice throwback to how some movies were done, where the title comes from just like one line in the movie. So that's where it came from. But it was tough one.
What was the line? I can't remember.
It was when the bad guy was pretending to be a cop, and it was part of their way of creating a diversion so he could kidnap the kid. And the guy like pulls up, the driver pulls up, and the bad guy's like standing there. He goes, "Oh, what's the problem?" And as the cop, the bad guy goes, "Nothing, just rush hour."
Is there a problem, officer? No problem. Just rush hour.
And then he kills him.
But I bet you if I rewatched it, I might see more of the Brett Ratner stink on it. So but in terms of my memory, that's where it still holds up. Because even the last time I saw it,
making these movies.
And that's funny because, like, to me, like the funniest line in the Rush Hour series is in the third one, when there's a Chinese guy speaking French, and he's like, "Man, you're Chinese. Speak Chinese. Better respect yourself." So,
I
think the fish
movies, and that's
but I think the fish
3 didn't end up on here.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm just saying, like, yeah.
So what else?
I think the fish out of tough. So Austin Powers versus Crocodile Dundee was a difficult one for me. In part, the nostalgia. It's been a long time since I've seen Crocodile Dundee, so that's another one where maybe the nostalgia I have for it is propping it up. But it had heart as well as story as well as the comedy, whereas Austin Powers was just all comedy with a story. I mean, it had a real story.
Mm-hmm.
So Austin leaned more into the comedy, so I could see people going with that, but it just made it tough. Both of the Deadpool picks were difficult. With Deadpool 1, it was going against Kindergarten Cop. That was really difficult for me. With Deadpool 2, it was in the second round when I had it up against 22 Jump Street.
Which you know who's also in 22 Jump Street is Wyatt Russell.
Me and this guy are having a meet cute.
That's right.
Oh, that's before I knew who he was, so I didn't realize he was in it.
Recognize.
And then Deadpool 2, I love both Jump Street movies. So a different day, maybe I have Jump Street beating Deadpool 2, but I had Deadpool 2 winning. So my next difficult pick was Deadpool 2 in the Elite 8 against Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah, I had that same issue.
Well, see, and it was hard because if you're asking me, like, Bad Boys 2 is so much better than Bad Boys, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so that was a hard choice, but...
Which is interesting, I will say, because my memory is Bad Boys 2 is the way to go between the first one and the second one. And it was such a big deal. And it has the, like, this shit just got real line. And
shit just got real.
It's so great. But that movie didn't do as well. Well, no, it did better than it did better in the first one, but it's more heavily panned. And not as popular on IMDb, but that's, of course, IMDb, the popularity thing. It depends on when you're looking at it.
Yeah.
But my memory is that the average person likes 2 better than 1.
Yeah.
See, my memory is poor with both because I'm not that into either of the Bad Boys movies, despite the fact that I had the first Bad Boys getting to the Elite 8.
Mm-hmm.
That was more of a function of I haven't seen Hot Fuzz, and it's been a while. How do I pick with movies I hadn't really seen?
Oh my
God! Like Midnight Run and The Heat was the other one. I think I saw The Heat, but not Midnight Run. But my understanding of Midnight Run is why I had Midnight Run winning.
That's understandable in that sense, but Trey, for the love of God, I will buy you the DVD of Hot Fuzz and send it to you because, oh my God.
Yeah, I think I just make so much more time for TV, and when some of these movies came out, there was just something, whatever didn't cause me to go to the theater to see them.
Did you have any pre-Final Four? Did you have any other pre-Final Four tough picks?
No.
Okay.
That was it.
No.
Justina, what were your tough picks?
There were 0 tough picks for me. I haven't seen most of these movies, and I only like of the movies that are on here, I only like Deadpool and Deadpool 2.
Have you
And
never
so-
seen? Have you seen like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World?
Mm-mm. And I haven't seen Hot Fuzz, but Hot Fuzz went all the way to final 2 for me.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't seen it, I just know.
She saw
that
it.
it's
How did you pick? How did you pick your movies if you hadn't seen most of them?
Did you?
I just like I
roll
was
the
like
dice?
I know I would like that movie. You know.
Well, that makes
and
sense.
like I was like I know I would not like
And
that movie.
I will say she's seen enough of Bad Boys to know she doesn't like it.
Yeah.
We watched Midnight Run. We just watched I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. It was her first time seeing it. And so I don't think you've seen 21 or 22 Jump Street. You've seen Tropic Thunder. You've seen Zombieland, right?
Yes.
So you had
haven't
Hot
seen
Fuzz
Beverly Hills
beating
Cop.
out Tropic Thunder.
What about Tropic Thunder?
You had well, we'll get to Final Fours later. I'll ask this later. Go ahead.
Oh,
yeah, but no
God,
difficult
don't even-
decisions. for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Rob, what were your tough matchups?
Well, I mean, I love Scott Pilgrim. It's one of those. You and I went and saw that movie together, actually.
Yeah.
And so like that's a movie I really love. But ultimately, I have a lot of respect for Beverly Hills Cop and and it's hard for like Beverly Hills Cop to beat. Honestly, Grosse Pointe Bacon versus Beverly Hills Cop was really hard. But I had to pick Beverly Hills Cop, even though Grosse Pointe Bacon is one of my favorite movies ever. But it's just I have to respect Grosse Pointe or Beverly Hills a little more. But if you were to ask, and I think you and I talked about this, to me, maybe Beverly Hills Cop, the first one's funnier, but I think I love Beverly Hills Cop 2. And I think some of that has to do with, and children, maybe you don't understand this, but back in the day before there was streaming, you just like watched whatever was on HBO if you were lucky to have it. And like they played Beverly Hills Cop 2 on repeat constantly on HBO. So I have much more of a connection with Beverly Hills Cop 2 than I do with Beverly Hills Cop. And I've rewatched both of them recently, and I will say that Beverly Hills Cop 2 is the much better action movie. Like when you look and like based on action, it is way better. And I think they do a lot. I just like it a little bit more. And maybe that's because it's Tony Scott versus oh crap, I can't remember the
I forget the cat's name he did the first
yeah,
one.
it's a different guy.
Different kind of action
yeah,
movie.
it's
Yeah,
just
the
not
difference between those two is like Beverly Hills Cop was the movie that studio was like, yeah, we'll make a movie, won't put much money into the budget. And then it was a big hit. And then they were like, we got to throw some 80s big time movie money at this.
I just remembered something about Beverly Hills Cop. That was actually intended to be an Sylvester Stallone vehicle.
That's why there's a Sylvester Stallone. There's like a poster in Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah, well, and then obviously Bridget Nielsen, because he was married to Bridget too.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal in Beverly Hills Cop 2. She is so good. She is and the reason why I like Beverly Hills Cop 2 is because I think she's better than Jonathan Banks is, because Jonathan Banks is kind of the second bad guy in Beverly Hills Cop, and I think she's so much more interesting, obviously because of the way she looks, but just her character in general. I thought she was more interesting than Jonathan.
It's a big bitch.
Yeah, I knew
that is a big bitch.
That's a line from Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yes.
Don't know.
Nice to meet you. Beautiful place you have here. My name is Richard James, and it's very nice to meet you.
Ross, could I see you for a minute?
I'll be right back.
God damn, that's a big bitch.
Did you have any other tough picks?
I love True Lies, and so that was a hard one to lose too. I like the part where he gets the truth serum and he's telling her like all the truth and
What did they give you? Sodium amytal, also not a truth agent.
It makes you tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna die?
Yep.
I'd say it's working.
I love that movie. My parents took me to go see that because my parents were awesome.
And Tom Arnold was great in that too.
He's
so funny in that.
My turn to drive?
Give me the page.
What are you talking about?
Jump from page 9 to page 11. Where's page 10?
It's got to be a typo.
Give me the goddamn page.
Okay.
His
so
best
when
performance
there's a
of all
scene where he
time.
gets shot at and he like checks his nuts first to see if they got shot off, and then
He's so good in that movie.
so good. Same
Like,
with
he delivers.
well, an easy choice. Like, well, I love, surprisingly, if I love his son, I obviously love Kurt Russell. So Big Trouble in Little China, again, was one of those movies that was on HBO all the time when I was a kid. And I loved that movie so much. And that was a hard one to kind of ultimately eliminate because I do, in that bracket, I definitely have Tropic Thunder winning, even though I love Zombieland. Just Tom Cruise and Tropic Thunder is a revelation.
So good.
So good.
Yeah.
And then I've rewatched 48 Hours. And the funny thing about 48 Hours, if you haven't seen it, watch it and take this in mind. It takes place in San Francisco, and Dirty Harry takes place in San Francisco. And so, Jack Cates is very Dirty Harry like. He's like, he does stuff by his own book and he's his own guy. And he's racist like Dirty Harry probably was.
Always like country boys. They're sure as hell gonna like you.
And but he actually uses the N-word, which is extremely uncomfortable. But when you get Eddie Murphy in the scene where he's introduced, where he's singing Roxanne. Roxanne.
You don't have to work for money. You don't have to say about it to the night.
And then you also have that scene in the bar.
Oh my! The scene in the
Roger
bar.
Ebert said about that scene in the bar. He said Eddie Murphy in that, like, there are certain scenes in movies where that is the scene that makes a person a star. That
is the scene
makes him a star.
If you said
in 48 Hours.
In 48.
Never seen so many backwards ass country fucks in my life. Think I'm playing a goddamn game, man? You out of your fucking mind? Huh? I'm gonna say it one more time, okay? This is a police matter and I'm looking for an Indian named Billy Bear.
Well, look, Hoss. You start running a respectable business, and I won't have to come in here and hassle you every night. You know what I mean?
And there's a meme where he does the he does that.
Yeah.
And that's him from that. And that scene is just, he owns it. And it's just like it's basically you've got a guy that's been waiting and waiting and waiting, and you get him out on the court and he shoots like 5 threes, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not scared that it's the finals. He's going for it. And he's just so good. And so that's why ultimately it's hard, because he's so great in it. But it's for the most part, like, it's a generic kind of 80s, late 70s action movie. But you throw Eddie Murphy in there, you get the comedy, you get the interesting racial dynamics, and then it's just magnetic. He's so great in it. And
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I bet if I saw that more recently, I would have done my bracket differently, because I had it losing to Rush Hour.
That's and I have been rewatching a lot of these movies. I mean, ultimately, I thought that it's kind of hard to come down, but Hot Fuzz is.
Your arrest record is 400% higher than any other officer. We're making you sergeant.
I see.
In Sanford, Gloucestershire.
In where, sorry?
In Sanford, Gloucestershire.
Isn't there a sergeant's position here in London?
No.
Can I remain here as a PC?
No.
Do I have any choice in this?
No.
But the fact is, you've been making us all look bad. We all appreciate your efforts, but you've been rather letting the side down.
It's all about being a team player, Nicholas.
However you spin this, there's one thing you haven't taken into account. And that's what the team is going to make of this.
That's a movie. I mean, obviously, I just think Edgar Wright is a genius, and so there's just so much going on with that movie that, it's just so smart. But ultimately, I think because I think Eddie Murphy's the funniest person possibly ever.
I'm undercover deep now. This is deep. I'm going deeper. I'm going deep, 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 deep undercover. Not even know where people gonna try to page me. Excellent. No answer, because I'm gonna be deep undercover. What year is this?
73?
Yes, it is a 73.
I know.
Please, that's all I have now. But you could just please take it for me. I'm sorry, that's it.
I'm just doing this for my kids. This is the same way Bootsy got killed.
Beverly Hills Cop 2 ends up winning my bracket, but it's a hard choice. So
well, my bracket is absolutely going to be bonkers to you all.
Yeah.
I had a lot of tough choices too. I actually wrote Hot Fuzz and then crossed it out and put Bad Boys. And I've seen Hot Fuzz once, and I was honestly, I know that it's a good movie, so no one hate, but that's a movie I have to see a second time to give it another chance because I was a little underwhelmed. I went in too hyped. It was too hyped up in my head when I saw Hot Fuzz. And I was expecting something more in the vein of a different kind of movie. And I just need to see it a second time to give it a chance. So I gave it to Bad Boys just because I was reminiscing on how I grew up with Bad Boys. So I just had to,
Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry. No, easy. Mike Lowry.
Don't be alarmed, we're Negroes. Like, so many lines from that for me. I had to give it to Bad Boys, but that was a tough one. Also tough was Men in Black versus I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. That was a tough one. Tropic Thunder
Because Chris Rockstein. How much for one rib? How much for one rib?
Oh, good.
How much for a drop of soda?
So like 50 cents per rib, huh?
Yeah, about.
Let me get one.
One order ribs.
No. One rib. I sure am hungry.
And
change it for 100?
Oh man, so many good things in that movie. Scott Pilgrim versus True Lies was tough, but I went with True Lies.
Okay, yeah.
And Rush Hour 2 and 22 Jump Street was tough, but I went with Rush Hour 2 because I remember just how excited I was at the time. But this isn't like, I didn't put this together like, what's the better movie? I put it together with like, what had a big impact on me at the time and since. And so Grosse Point Blank and Beverly Hills Cop was very tough, but Grosse Point Blank won because Grosse Point Blank is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I've seen it more than any two of these movies combined.
Wow.
Except for maybe Tropic Thunder and like an Austin Powers or something like that.
Well,
but
I'm just wondering, like, just for you guys, like, which of the Austin Powers oeuvre is your favorite?
First or the second, I gotta give it to the first because it was the first time some like the jokes that are they do as a callback in the second one land and are good, but they were so funny to me the first time around that I have to give it to the first one.
Well, I mean, when you think about the recent Suez Canal instance, the scene where he gets stuck, you know, when he's driving that car, he gets stuck. That's kind of the Suez. That's why I kept thinking. No, but the Spy Who Shagged Me, that was hard to eliminate that ultimately because I think the Spy Who Shagged Me is the funniest, and the Goldmembers, it's got great stuff, but it's not the funniest to me.
That's fair. But it's also that whole beginning of Spy Who Shagged Me is so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
I mean, I'm like Jason. I'm torn between the first two Austin Powers, but I think with this, similar to what I would say about Beverly Hills Cop, is that when both of them are great, even if technically the sequel is the better movie, it's hard not to give it to the first one for setting
because it came first,
right?
Yeah,
right. And I also had a tough time with Beverly Hills Cop 2 versus Bad Boys 2 because of what I like both of those more in the originals in some respect.
I do.
Especially in Rush Hour 2's respect. So it was just tough. But let me just give my final four, and then I'll ask you all to give your final four. I'm telling you, it's bonkers. No one's going to be happy with me. Beverly Hills Cop 2, you're going to be fine with. Tropic Thunder, you're going to be fine with. The Other Guys is in my final four. So yes, it beat Hot Fuzz and whatever else. It was number one for me in that category, which I know is nuts to everyone.
We saw it together.
Blank. But that's my final four.
Okay.
So Cop 2, Tropic Thunder, Grosse Point.
Okay, I will give you The Other Guys if you could tell me what the funniest scene in The Other Guys is.
Oh, that's easy.
The one with where The Rock and Samuel Jackson jump off the building.
You thinking what I'm thinking, partner? Aim for the bushes.
No, my friend. It is the scene where there's two scenes. This is the scene where they're in the bar and they're singing the Irish songs. And Will Ferrell is like, I gave my love to Aaron. And he's like, basically he says like when he leaves for war, she like has a 3-way with these guys and it was consensual.
To come back and find 5 British soldiers had their way with her. It was consensual.
That's funny, but I
there's
still
another
like the
scene. No, the one The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson killed themselves on accident. That part's hilarious.
was one of the biggest laughs in a movie I've had ever.
And the other where Christine, you say my wife's name right, but sorry. And then no, one more thing is Michael Keaton in that movie keeps quoting TLC.
Oh, good. The movie's great.
It is funny. It is
other
funny.
gues. It's fantastic.
It's underrated, and it actually is pretty funny because it kind of shows where Adam McKay is going to go with his career. Because clearly he really cares about the financial crisis, and that's what that movie's about. And so it's pretty funny.
Yeah. What was your final 4, Rob?
I had Hot Fuzz, Tropic Thunder. I ultimately did have Deadpool winning that bracket, even though I love Scott Pilgrim, and then Beverly Hills Cop 2. And then ultimately I did choose Beverly Hills Cop 2 just because from my sense that, and just kind of like the horror aspect of the horror comedy is the action aspect of it too. And I do feel like it's such a good action movie. The only thing that Beverly Hills Cop 2 doesn't have over the Beverly Hills Cop is the Bronson Pinch house scene.
My name is Serge, and how can I help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for Miss Jenny Summers.
Don't run and tell me, Summers, that Mr. Ahmed Foley is here to see...
Axel Foley. Axel.
Axel. Foley is here to see her.
Yeah.
And Bronson Pinchot is so good in the first one. Get the fuck out of here. And so that's the only thing that I missed, but in the comedy aspect, but for an action movie, it's so good. There's so many good
I
scenes.
had Deadpool 2 up against Beverly Hills Cop 2, and that was tough. And I had Deadpool against Austin Powers, and I picked Austin Powers, and that was tough.
Yeah.
Because the Deadpool movies are so good. But Beverly Hills Cop is just, and Austin Powers just meant something to me growing up that Deadpool can't.
And that's a factor for me too. And it's something Eddie Murphy, just for people of our age, he just means so much to us.
Yeah.
And so like that to me, and I just feel like Axel Foley's just the coolest guy ever to me.
Yeah.
Like he's just so cool and he's so like laid back. And the fact that he can like in the second one, like he just like convinces this whole crew of painters to leave this house so that he can steal a mansion in Beverly Hills to just stay at, And then like he's just like he's both mean and supporting to Judge Reinhold. And so he's just magnetic. And I love him as an action hero. Yeah. And it makes, and him in that period, it just makes sense. And then also like, I want to own a Detroit Lions jacket and I want to be him. So
for sure. Justina, what was your final 4?
Hot Fuzz, Tropic Thunder, Deadpool 2.
Interesting. Have you seen both Deadpool and Deadpool 2?
Yes, I did. I have seen those.
Okay.
And loved them. Those are the 2 that she saw. Mm-hmm. Other than the other 2.
Here's what and this is the difference between our and others. When I took my wife to go see Deadpool 2, her quote was, "You undersold the action and oversold the comedy."
Yeah,
I think it's because there's a guy that like gets killed by a highway sign and gets splattered against the highway sign, and she looked at me and she was like, oh, "Damn it!" Like,
and Brad Pitt for like literally only 2 frames or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's in Deadpool 2. I'm talking about just Deadpool.
Oh, the first
Deadpool.
One.
Yeah, like there's that. There's the scene where he like kills all Francis's bad guys on the highway.
Shit! Did I leave the stove on?
And she was out then.
X gonna give it to you.
X gonna.
All right.
I love that they've essentially recreated the entire test.
Right.
Video.
think that I would hear it.
Some bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Oh, hello there. Oh. Oh, hello. Maximum effort.
No, that was
that-
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it, and I love Ryan Reynolds. Like, and that's hard to ultimately eliminate Deadpool.
Yeah.
I love that was such a perfect vehicle for his sense of humor and and then Marvel and everything else. It's so
It's really commendable that it got as high as it Deadpool 2 got as high as it did for me.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just it's the way the cookie crumbled. Trey, what was your top four, your final four?
So in the upper left bracket, Rush Hour beat out Bad Boys to get the final four spot. Tropic Thunder. I'm another Tropic Thunder. Tropic Thunder beat out Men in Black to get to the final four.
Same.
Yeah.
Though Big Trouble in Little China, man,
I'm telling you.
I loved it. In the upper right bracket, I had so basically the upper right and bottom right look essentially the same because it's in both cases is Beverly Hills Cop beating out a Deadpool movie to get to the final four. So Beverly Hills Cop 1 versus Beverly Hills Cop 2 in my final four.
Wow. And what did you end up with in your finals, and what was your winner?
Tropic Thunder going up against Beverly Hills Cop, the original one.
Yeah.
And Beverly Hills Cop for the win.
Wow.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
Rob.
Yeah, I have Beverly Hills Cop too.
What did you have in the final?
Tropic Thunder. It was that
Okay.
versus Tropic Thunder, and I had Tropic. Yeah, I had him. As much as I love Hot Fuzz, I do think that Tropic Thunder is probably a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a good movie. Justina?
Hot Fuzz versus Deadpool. Deadpool winning.
Nice.
Yeah, makes sense.
And mine, Tropic Thunder versus Gross Point Blank, and Gross Point Blank won. Fuck the world. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I'm fine with
years! 10 years, man! 10! Where have you been for 10 years?
I freaked out, joined the army, went into business for myself. I'm a professional killer.
Oh, do you have to do postgraduate work for that, or can you jump right in?
Yeah, years. I love that movie. Love that movie so much. The music,
Medical and dental.
Minnie Driver's accent.
I don't want to hear about the theories. I want to hear about the dead people. Explain the dead people.
Movie's so great. Oh gosh, everyone in that
God,
movie.
that's a hard movie to eliminate because it's one of those where that was formative for me. I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
And just to talk Tropic Thunder for a little bit, since we haven't gone too much into it. I mean, the degree to which everyone committed to their character.
I didn't tell you, but Fatty's Fart 3 is coming down the pike, and there's a role in there for you. If you come over and untie me.
You're just going to have to tough it out.
Your mother's a cankerous whore! Jesus, man. Hey, man. Remember way back when I said your mother was a cankerous whore? I'm sorry, man. I did not mean that.
You got a certain something you're trying to get with back in the States.
He's like 10 girls deep 24/7.
I'm talking about something special, big difference. How about it?
Yeah, there is.
What's the name?
Lance.
Lance. What the fuck did I just hear, Lance?
You said Lance?
No.
That sounded like Lance.
No, I said Nance.
When you wrote I Love the Pussy, was you thinking of dangling your dice on Lance's forehead?
No, hell no. What? If you untie me, I will literally suck your dick right now. I told you for the last time, I love the pussy.
Yeah.
Just say it. Just say
Robert
it.
Downey Jr.
Just say it, guys. I mean,
Robert Downey Jr. as an Australian playing a black man in a movie.
what do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people?
I don't believe you people.
What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people? Huh?
And when he starts quoting the Jefferson's theme song.
Just because it's deep notes don't mean it's right. Don't mean it's not right.
So good. And like when I was putting this together, I was deciding if that should be in basically the second seed or not, and like what should be in it. I was looking at what was left, and I just thought, look, out of all the movies in this category, this is the only one that has a major Oscar nomination. It's Tropic Thunder as number 2. It's like Men in Black was such a huge thing that it had to be number 1, but Tropic Thunder had to be number 2 then.
And that was hard to eliminate because again, obviously we love Will Smith and like his run. I mean, to go from Independence Day to Men in Black.
Welcome to Earth. That's what I call a close encounter. I make this look good.
It's just he is so and
he in Men in Black, we should say, so that they originally were thinking of like David Schwimmer in that role.
Oh my God, I did not know that.
And that's because the screenplay was very different, and Barry Sonnenfeld told Will Smith, "Your lines suck. I want you to write 5 alternatives for each line."
Are you serious? I didn't know this.
And Will Smith did it, and those lines are his. Like when he falls in the double-decker bus,
it just
he looks at everybody and he goes, "Oh, it just be raining black men today."
It just be raining black people in New York.
That was a Will Smith original. The original line was just him saying sorry and then running out.
Oh my God! That movie.
Now here's why it was David Schwimmer before, because it was a comic book series.
Right, and both characters are white in the comic.
And one of them looks like David Schwimmer, so that's why. But it became a thing because it was Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones.
Just the scene where there's so many. Just
like I can't see David Schwimmer's character. I don't see how that version would have been an interesting movie because I don't see any of that stuff.
The scene where there's the scene where they're doing all the test and they've got the gun and he shoots one shot and it's the girl with the textbooks. He's like, why is that young girl doing advanced chemistry or like, it's like, there's something up with that. Like,
Edwards, what the hell happened? May I ask why you felt little Tiffany deserved to die?
Well, first I was going to pop this guy hanging from the street light, and then I realized, he's just working out. I saw little Tiffany. I'm thinking, 8-year-old white girl, middle of the ghetto, this time of night with quantum physics books. She about to start some shit, Zed.
Describing that all the others, because of why they look strange,
that guy's got to sneeze. Like, like that guy's going to work out, It's like
no, that is one of again going to that like star making thing. He'd already had Bad Boys and had already had Independence Day, but he really solidified himself as an A-list actor.
Beyond I would say,
and
he
you
was
can only
A+.
give the credit to him.
Because Tommy Lee Jones is phenomenal in that movie. He is a great, he is a great side part to him. But he Will Smith is like unworldly in that movie. And honestly, I loved him from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but it was like it's solidified with Men in Black. So that's why it's hard. It's a hard movie to discount or to not go forward because it's just amazing.
It would have been 2 straight men if it were Tommy Lee Jones and David Schwimmer.
David Schwimmer is great as Ross.
David Schwimmer playing the like pushover guy that he's great at playing, but it wouldn't have gone up against the straight man as well. Like it just would have been like I don't know, just wouldn't have been as good. And I'm glad that they did what they did.
I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they went with Will because he's amazing in it.
The other test scene I loved is when everybody's just writing on their laps.
Oh yeah,
hard time, and
he drags the table over.
It's that common sense, street smart thing.
Nope.
down on this?
Y'all want in on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like or just like when he's yelling at the Edgar or whatever what's the name of the alien? Because I always think of him as Edgar. That's Vincent D'Onofrio.
I forget.
But yeah, he's like, oh, you coming up here with all the galaxy stuff, and like he's just distracting him. He's like, I'm distracting you, and then you hear Kay shoot the gun.
I'm sorry. Was that your auntie? You know y'all look alike. Don't start nothing. Won't be nothing. You need to ease up out my face for something bad happened to you. Too late.
You know, and blow him up from the inside. But
we got to rewatch that.
Yeah, that's a good man.
But
hey, Jason, do you remember the message I left you the other day?
Yes, it was very funny, and I meant to tell you that.
So just so listeners know,
I'm Will Smith inside joke.
I'm a huge Will Smith fan, and I am obsessed because Jason and I saw them film. Lovely film, The Pursuit of Happiness. And there's a scene where Will Smith gets really mad about actually, I think I said $5, but I think it's like $3. And he's like, wait, why my $3? I want my $3, wait. I want my $3.
He gets, if you haven't seen the movie, there's just a scene where Will Smith's character gets real mad at this guy. He lent money to him and paid it back.
I need my money. I need my money right now. Hey, man, I don't have it. Wayne, go get my money. Get my money. Man. It's $14, man. You all It's my $14. Go get my money. I
want my $3,
Rob did this nonsense he's doing now into my phone because we we leave wild messages for each other.
Yeah. Wait! Where are my $3?
Well,
I will kill you.
There it is.
There it is.
I knew you were going to do that when I heard the guitar.
Yeah. There it is. Neil Saveda. Justina does the last thing. Listen to the socks because we're really good.
An unplugged electric guitar. Well, thanks for being on here of the show, Clan.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Again, I will plug the socks. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. We have a very controversial Twitter. We're very pro Hong Kong, but check us out. Check us out on Hong.
Just like trying to create a controversy to blow up your word.
Blow up, yeah. As you know, we're anti Hong Kong. I don't know. What's gonna get more views?
Hey, whatever is gonna get people angrier.
Yeah.
Definitely saying the wrong thing first and then changing.
Yes. And you know how Jason likes to create things. I'm going to create a controversy. So,
controversy.
Had to throw a little Prince in there for you. I mean, if you got the reference just sitting right there, you got to do it. Hope you enjoyed listening to us goof around and act like fools there, particularly Rob, but all of us, I guess, were involved with that. And why don't you go to thereitispod.com and look for the blog for this episode, because that's where you can find the bracket. You can download it, fill it out yourself, and share it with us on social media at thereitispod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, follow the socks, like Rob was mentioning there on Twitter, at @the_socks, Instagram at the Socks Official, and Facebook at the Socks. And don't forget that you can also follow me on Twitter at Jason Farr Jokes and on Instagram at Jason Farr Pics. And also subscribe to our comedy lifestyle newsletter. You can find that on There It Is Pod 2, links in bio. Until next time, be good to each other.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.
We live in a society where honor is a distant memory.
Isn't that right?
And make no mistake, I will fucking kill